Welcome everyone, my name is Stephanie Kerr, and this is another episode of Seasons with Stef, where I share with you the top lesson from the week. And as I was thinking back over my week this week, one thing just really stood out to me, and it was this. Top lesson. My feelings are valid, but I can't always be led by my feelings. And if you are watching on IG right now, you'll see that I put the title as, yes, feelings are valid, but ... so is something else, right? There's other things that are also important. Even while we're acknowledging how we feel about something, it doesn't mean that that's where the buck should stop. And that's one thing that I just had to accept this week, because there were so many moments this week where I didn't feel like doing what I needed to do. I woke up and I didn't feel like getting out of bed. I didn't feel like working out. I didn't feel like getting dressed and going to a quiet space to get some editing done or to get some work done. I just didn't feel like it. But one thing that I actually said to myself yesterday as I was lying in bed was, and this is just how I talk to myself. So I said to myself, Stephanie, you say you want your life to change, but your life is not going to change with you staying in bed. And so I stayed in bed a little bit longer than I normally would have. In fact, a lot longer than I normally would have. And then I got up, I got into my routine, and I got myself ready, went to a quiet space, and got some work done. Because again, my feelings are valid, but so is keeping my word to myself. And so is doing what God wants me to be doing in this season. It's not just about how I feel about things. And one thing I will mention too is I'm just getting over a cold right now, so if my voice sounds a little bit off or if I start to like cough or something, I do have some water, so I will just continue, but just bear with me. I know my voice sounds a little bit different. But let's define a feeling. So here's what I got: a couple different definitions, but a feeling is an emotional state or reaction. A feeling is a belief, especially a vague or irrational one. A feeling is a subjective, self-contained, phenomenal experience. Welcome. So those are some definitions of a feeling: an emotional state or reaction, a belief, especially a vague or irrational one, and a feeling is a subjective, self-contained, phenomenal experience. And so, like I said, there were so many moments this week where I just didn't feel like doing what I needed to do, but that didn't change the fact that what I needed to do still needed to get done, right? And when I was about 14, and I was thinking about this topic, and it just took me back to a memory. It was a very short exchange between my father and I was getting ready for church one morning, and I guess as a family, we were getting ready for church one morning, and I didn't feel like going to church. And so I walk over to his room, and I say, Dad, I don't feel like going to church today. And my dad, my dad just being who he is, he literally just had one question for me. And this was the question: do we only do what we feel like doing? That's all he asked me. Do we only do what we feel like doing? And I think I was about 14 at the time, and I knew obviously the answer was no. We don't just do what we feel like doing. And so I just literally walked down the hallway to my room, got ready, and we ended up going to church. And I didn't really even remember that memory, didn't even really think too much about that exchange until today, because it was a moment where he was just teaching me just by asking a simple question: do we just do the things that we feel like doing, or do we do the things that we're supposed to do? Right? So I know for me personally, I tend to be somebody who I'm not, how do I put it? Feelings are important, yes, 100%, but I'm just in a space where I'm just like, okay, as much as feelings are important, I want to be balanced in how much I honor how I feel and how much I honor what has to get done. Because there will be some times where, let's say, physically, you don't feel like doing something. For example, you might be tired. And there will be some moments where you actually just have to stop, listen to your body, and relax and just take a break, right? So there will be some moments where there's just some give and take. But one thing that is super, super clear to me is that As I'm speaking, I'm currently in Toronto, currently in North America, and I've been raised by and I'm currently living in a culture where we are led by our feelings so much. Like, we worship our feelings. Whatever we feel like doing, that's what it is. Whatever we feel like being, that's what it is. And it's just such an erosion of, consistency, such an erosion of just people actually showing up to do the things that they said that they would do, long beyond the feeling in which they originally said that they would do it has left. Romans 8 verse 14, it says, "For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God." And one thing that I had said at the very top of this video was that the top lesson for me this week was that my feelings are valid, but I can't always be led by my feelings. And that verse even suggests that it's not even a good idea to necessarily just be led by my feelings or to be led by my feelings, because, well, as a child of God, I'm supposed to be led by His Spirit. And that's actually one thing that I also said to myself yesterday, because I went on Instagram and I clicked on the story of someone whose stories I don't really normally watch. Welcome. And, let me go here. Yes, whose stories I don't normally watch. And in the story, the very first thing that she said was that we're living in a time and a season where it's so important for us to do the thing that God is calling us to do. And this was me hearing this story while I'm in a mindset of, man, I just don't feel like it. This is just not what I want to be doing right now. And after having heard that short little story, I was just like, you know what? She has a good point. And I was reminded, taken out of my little world, which, sometimes we allow what's taking place in our world to be the end all be all. But as I speak right now, there's wars going on in the world. There are just some really big situations taking place. And to think that God is expecting me to do this specific thing, or He's expecting me to do this specific thing, and I wouldn't do it because of how I feel. It just brought everything back into perspective, and I was just like, okay, cool. I might stay in bed a little bit longer, but for sure I am going to get up and I'm going to get dressed. I'm going to work out. I'm going to do my routine, and I'm going to get to this day because I need to, right? I absolutely need to. And as I was preparing for this live, I thought to myself, what are some things that we excuse ourselves for because of our feelings? And it didn't take me long to think of quite a few examples. The very first one is going places, giving people our word, saying that we're going to attend something, saying that we're going to come to something, and then at the last minute, we don't feel like it, so we don't do it. And that's one that we use all the time. That's one that we're not hard pressed to think of a moment where that happened, where someone said, or we said that we were going to do something, and the day arrives and we just don't feel like it. It's not like we're sick. It's not like something happened. It's not like an extenuating circumstance just popped up. No, we just don't feel like it. And so we don't show. We make so many excuses for ourselves because of what we're feeling. And again, feelings are valid, but we just can't be led by our feelings all the time. Another one that I thought of was when people commit to something. I've seen this happen, and it's so sad to say that I've seen this happen so many times, where someone actually commits to doing something. They commit to a responsibility, they commit to a task, a role, whatever it is, and because they're committing to a role, it's coming with a certain amount of responsibilities, and they do it for as long as they feel like doing it. But then when they don't feel like doing it anymore, they just kind of like, oh yeah, today I wasn't really in the mood. I was having a bad day, so I didn't do it. I didn't show up to do what I said I would do because I didn't feel like it, right? So there's so many different moments, and this is not to judge anyone. This is literally a top lesson for me this week. This was a week where I had to be reminded, yes, of course, acknowledge, honor how you feel. But at the end of the day, if how you feel is not in alignment with what God's expecting of you, then what God's expecting of you is going to have to trump how you feel. If how you feel doesn't align with what you said you would do, then what you said you would do still has to get done, right? And I don't know if you are just joining right now, but I did mention there are allowances. We're not living like a stringent life where every single thing that we said, like we're just regimented and we never give ourselves allowances. Of course, we give ourselves allowances, but we also recognize that how we feel isn't enough of, I guess, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be the only thing that we allow ourselves to be led by. And as I was reading a book yesterday, it's a really good book. I'll recommend it to you guys. It's called Sometimes We Win and Sometimes We Learn by John Maxwell. And this book has just been really supporting me right now in this season of my life, because there's just so many things happening behind the scenes that I just have to get a renewed perspective concerning. And as I'm reading it, it's just reminding me, listen, failures don't have to be something that completely stop you. You can learn from mistakes. You can do this. You can get a better perspective. You can know what not to do next time, right? So there's always something that can be gained from even something that looks like it was a failure or looks like it was a huge mistake, right? But as I was reading that book yesterday, I came across a line, and I was trying to see if I could find it for you guys today. Wasn't able to find the specific line, but it just went something along the lines of, we build self-esteem, or self-esteem is what we know to be true about ourselves. And that's how we're able to build self-confidence and self-esteem. Because I know, for example, just using myself as an example, if I say I'm going to do this every day, that I do it every day. So even if nobody else knows that I did it, I know when I'm looking at myself in the mirror that I did it, that I showed up to do the thing that I said I would do, even if in this particular moment I don't feel like doing it. That's how we build self-confidence. That's how we build esteem. And it's just a beautiful thing to know that something as simple as being consistent and keeping our word to ourselves helps us to trust ourselves and to trust that we will actually follow through. But again, when we just allow ourselves to be led by our feelings, here are three things that happens when we only allow, not only, but when we are primarily led by our feelings. People can't trust us. There are certain people who, let's say they're going to do something. In the back of my head, I'm like, I don't know if they're really going to do it. Why? Because I've seen a couple different moments where they said they were going to do something, but didn't. They said they were going to come, but didn't. I was expecting them to follow through with something, but they didn't. Right? So eventually, I stopped believing what they say. Eventually, because they're so led by feelings, I no longer really know what to expect from them, because they might be feeling like doing it that day, as well as they may not feel like doing what they said they would do. So that's one thing that happens when we are just incredibly led by our feelings. People can't trust us. And they also don't know what to expect from us, because feelings fluctuate. That's the thing about feelings. They fluctuate. Number two, a result that happens when we are so led by our feelings. We can't truly respect ourselves. Give me 1 second, guys. Yes, we can't truly respect ourselves. So just as I was saying, in terms of building that self-confidence, if I know that whenever I say I'm going to do something, even if no one else knows, I probably won't end up doing it. Just because there might be a day I feel like it, there might be a day I don't feel like it. But deep down, that's eroding my ability to have confidence in myself. And the last thing that I will say, or that I will share today, that is a result of just being so led by our feelings and our heart and our emotions and what we want in a particular moment, is that God can't really use us. Because he might want to use us for a specific thing, but he needs someone consistent. He might want to have us praying about a specific just demographic in the world, or a specific country, or he might want us to serve in a particular area. And he really wants to use us, But again, because we're so led by our feelings, he can't even really depend on us. So today, the top lesson from my week, and this is from my heart to your heart, is that our feelings are valid, but we can't always be led by our feelings. Romans 8 verse 14 suggests that there's a better impetus for what we do, and that is the Spirit of God. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons and daughters of God. And there's a verse that I want to leave with you guys. It's taken from Jeremiah 17 verse 9. And it says, "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?" So again, I'm recording this video very aware of the fact that the cultural context in which I live, the cultural context and climate that I grew up in, and that is just increasing, is whatever you feel, that's what it is. Whatever you feel like doing, that's fine. Whatever you feel like being, that's fine. But truthfully, that just isn't always the case. And we can just always do what we feel like doing, but there will always be consequences to it. People won't know what to expect from us. People won't be able to trust us. We won't be able to respect ourselves, and God ultimately won't be able to use us if we choose to always be led more by our feelings than we are our commitments, or more by our feelings than we are our commitment to this generation, or our commitment to even the legacy that God wants to build through us, right? So this is not, like I said, me coming on and being like, everyone else is wrong and I'm right. No, this was literally something I had to be reminded of this week. This very week. In fact, yesterday. I had to have that conversation with myself and remind myself, Stephanie, in order to get where you want to be, you're going to have to push past your feelings in this moment. Get up, get started with your day, and get done what needs to get done. Because yes, feelings are valid, but so are so many other things. So I see a couple of you are here. If you have any comments, please feel free to share them. If not, I will end this live video. And I pray, I know it's a shorter one, but I pray that this was able to perhaps just spark in somebody something that they already knew, and something that just needed a refresher in their mind. Because like I said, feelings are important, they're valid, all of that, you know, but so are some other things. It can't just always be about what we feel. And I'll leave you guys with that question that my dad asked me all those years ago when I said to him, I don't feel like going. And he said, do we always, or do we only ever do what we feel like doing? And hopefully the answer is no. We don't just do the things that we feel like doing. Sometimes we do the things that have to get done. Sometimes we push past our feelings and we go with what God is asking us to do in a particular moment, because that will be the most worthwhile. Okay, so we have a comment here. It says, definitely encouraged by this live. Thank you for allowing God to work through you. You're welcome, Ryan, and thank you for having been here today. So with that, I will say have an amazing Friday and start to your weekend. And I pray that God will bless you guys and help you to know which moments you're supposed to yield to how you feel, and which moments you're not supposed to yield. You're supposed to push past how you feel in order to get something done. All right, take care, guys. You know what? There's one last thing that I want to add, and it just came to me as I was closing. So in this, I'll go back to this culture that we're in right now. We really do worship our feelings. Our feelings, for a lot of people, are their God. And that's not how it's supposed to be. So my encouragement that I want to leave with whoever might watch this video is, don't allow your feelings to be your God. Truly be led by the Spirit of God, but don't allow your feelings to become your God, because then you would have bowed to your feelings, and your feelings, they fluctuate, they change, they are sometimes foundationless, and it's not something that's worthwhile building and allowing your life to be led by. So that is what I will end with. Don't bow to your feelings when they, especially when they conflict with what God has said. So I hope you guys take care. And this video will be posted on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and share this video with anyone who you feel like might be blessed by what we talked about today. Take care.